Erik is saying no.
Yeah.
Erik Paulson says no link yet.
Well, get ready to feel
The power. Where we go. We went on right before I realized it, and I just got a call. So welcome to. Sorry to jump on your lead here. Can you feel the power? Thank you. I did both roles. So welcome to the MMA Power Hour. Go ahead, Dr. Adamorta. While you're doing it, Mike, can you send that link again to our first guest? He doesn't have it. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Stepping on my toes.
Continue. Sorry about that, brother.
Yeah, continue.
I heard the crunch on those toes, too, with these steel-toed boots I have on.
Yeah, I decided to jump on his feet over there. You guys didn't see it. You can't see my extra foot.
Exactly.
On his foot.
I know, right?
But no, welcome to MMA Power Hour. It's great to have you guys here. This is our last show here on Fight TV. So if you're not on Fight TV, make sure to hit up the Fight TV app. It's FITE.tv to go ahead and download it. It's free. They do have pay-per-view events over there for wrestling and fighting, all sorts of combat sports. All over the place there. It is one of the best apps. We're just going our own direction here. We're going to be setting up our own app in time. And, it was always part of the plan. So no love lost for Fight TV. Make sure to check them out, FITE.tv. And I'm over here getting phone calls from people that know they're not supposed to be calling me right now.
Exactly. That's what we got
So, hey, welcome. Welcome to another show. Make sure to hit up Lith Token, sponsor of the show. I'm also one of the head honchos over there. We decided to go ahead and get us set up in the new studio here. It is the way we're getting in the studio here. So it's LITH token.io, Lith token.io.
That's it. And we believe, although there's no guarantee, I shouldn't say we, I'm not officially part of that team yet, but we believe that if you get involved with Lith Token, you won't have to be saying I owe to all the people you owe money to. You won't have to be telling your girlfriend or your mom all the people that you owe by saying I owe. If you go to Lith Token, I owe.
Well, we
right?
hope not. Just don't put anything in there you can't afford to lose. We are a utility token. We're a little different than a majority of projects out there that claim to be. We actually have our opinion letter, and it's from a U.S. stateside securities attorney that has not involved with us. He's third party. And has figured out that we are a utility token. We knew that going into it, but it is all about ESG. It's environmental social governance, so we're here to help the world, but it's through a more individualized approach instead of having the government control everything, right? So it's the exact opposite from a lot of progressives would like to see, but in reality, forcing them to put their money where their mouths are. So
I like that.
It's a cool little project. I recommend everybody check it out. We have a lot of people behind us. We have Vidor Belfort with us on board as a team member. Mm-hmm. We have Dak Prescott, who's throwing stuff out there from Dallas Cowboys. We've got a bunch of esports guys behind us. It's pretty cool, man.
Absolutely. I like it. I think it's going to be a great success. And with the opinion key or whatever that you mentioned, the opinion has been authorized. Opinion letter. And as the opinion letter came in from Tony the Tiger, and he says, it's great.
You know what? That'd be awesome if you were here with us today, Tony the Tiger. Whatever, God bless his soul.
Yes.
God rest his soul.
That's right.
May he rest in peace.
Oh yes, but
no, he's still around, isn't he?
I think he is. Tony the Tiger, a cartoon. Yes,
never aged.
He never aged. He's the same, like in his 20s or 30s or something. And that's what he would be wearing a Lith Token shirt, and then you would be in there saying, "Tony, what do you think about Lith Token?" And he'd say, "It's great."
Well, I mean, he should.
That's it, without a doubt. So you guys realize you won't be owing anyone, but anyway, no guarantees. Anyway, so we're happy about that. There's also the great cross-trained MMA fighter gear that I still have. Some of the great gear, some of the greatest fitting and more comfortable MMA gear. All we have left right now is small and mediums. Highest quality shirts, and we have a lot of people that are buying them, but still some people haven't. So if you want to support, jump in, hit me up. We can make some deals on the website. It's like $29.95, and we've gone as low as $19.95 on a blowout if people buy at least a couple shirts, and we can do that. Or if you're local in LA, I can even make some other deals. But anyway, great quality gear and great stuff. But anyway, to the show.
Hit us up. I'll be willing to go ahead and pay for printing on some new ones if we need them individually. So hit us up, either one of us. Lith Token gear goes to support, and actually I'm going to go ahead and do this. If you go ahead and order and want to make a donation, we can throw that towards an Indigenous Persons Initiative set up by Lith Token. It goes to fund some Indigenous people education down in Argentina, where some lithium mining is going, and showing them how to handle some sustainable agriculture with some of the actual good byproducts of one of these new lithium technologies coming out. So
Very cool.
yeah, really cool stuff. And if anybody wants to make a donation, let us know. I can shoot over a wallet to you, wallet address.
That would be awesome. I highly recommend that. And then we also have our MMA Power Hour T-shirts, and we would have to do another run of that if anyone wanted them. And we can definitely make some deals. But represent our show. We definitely can boast that we've had probably over 100 recognizable names in the world of MMA, probably even 200. We've not only had people that are in the top 20, top 10, top 5, and even a few. Several UFC champions, current and past, but we've also had, I think, more than half of the people in the UFC Hall of Fame. We've had champions from one championship in Singapore, champions from the PFL, champions from Bellator, and some legendary kickboxing champions, Muay Thai champions, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champions, the best of the best. And so, if you're new to the show, welcome, and we will always have some really interesting people on to talk and get to know them and really ask the good questions that you would want to ask. Once in a blue moon, if someone has some injury or if someone had some wacky situation going on, we may not know that, so we can't always ask every good question. But if you do have a good question that you want us to ask, we will do our best to ask. If you do throw us a tip the way it's done normally on YouTube, that will give priority in us asking your questions, because after all, we only do have about 2 hours, and so we won't be able to always get to every question.
Yeah, and I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the show. That's why I have my phone out, and you see my handy-dandy pen, and I guess we'll call it a notebook.
That's it. That pen, what do they use? Didn't they used to call that pen something?
No, this one's an S pen.
A Nest pen from
S.
Oh, an S pen. Nice.
Like the letter S.
I like it.
Backwards for you guys.
That's it. Like running serpentine. Like if someone's shooting at you, you got to run like an S serpentine, which is like.
Yeah, it's S for Samsung. And for those of you out there, don't hate us so much that you stop watching us just because I'm a Samsung fan. I believe he's an Apple fan to make up for it. So
that's it.
Don't hate us. I did lose 4 friends over saying that Samsung's better than Apple on Facebook.
Man,
just yesterday.
Yeah, people are touchy about that, aren't they? I'm not necessarily an Apple fan. I've just got used to
all
having
the things.
iPhone.
I'm an asshole and they care about that.
I know, it's really ridiculous. I'm not necessarily an Apple fan, but I just got used to having it, although I definitely have more fondness for the late Steve Jobs than for Bill Gates, that's for sure. But anyway, so we have our first guest in a couple minutes. Should be there any minute. Mike, were you able to send to that additional contact information I texted you about 5 minutes ago? Yep. Okay, so he should be able to see it any minute, and then I guess as soon as we see him, we'll bring it on.
Yeah, he'll pop in. We'll be good.
That's good. I love it. I appreciate that, Dr. Adamora. Okay, so we've got.
Hey, you get to see it right there. It's a little different. We're used to doing our Skype dance.
Yes.
We're not going to be doing the Skype dance anymore, but we're going to figure some stuff out here in studio to bring some more graphics to you and some really fun layered stuff. We actually talked about having a wombat overlaid over somebody, Snapchat filter style. And we will do stuff like that. I'm actually going to have some guys program and code it into plugins for the software that they use at the Third Wheel Podcast Studio here in Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. I love it.
We will do that. It may be a little while, but we'll get some stuff figured out and get that done. I'm actually in the place to do that. There's a studio, a volumetric capturing studio on the other side of town here that I'm starting to work with, and they can actually help with that kind of stuff.
Nice. Oh man,
so
that would be so.
We
much
were
fun.
talking about it, joking, and I was
For
like, "Man, maybe
years.
we can." Well, now I'm actually in a position. I just realized that now.
Oh man, that would be so great because we have talked about that for 2 years.
Watch fighters fly across the screen, punching each other. And
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we're
Different.
gonna. Colin all of a sudden makes a joke, and Mike over here producing, he's going to go ahead and click a button.
And then it'll be up.
And the fighter's going to come up and just punch you, and you're going to have black eyes.
That would be
Stars.
awesome. That would be
stuff
awesome.
like that. We're literally going to see what we can do to get stuff like that figured out here in studio for you. So.
Right, exactly. And then, we're not going to try to rip on anyone. We're not trying to make the fighters look silly, so we'll just making us look silly. Or if we talk to a fighter beforehand and they don't mind.
Some of them will love it, man.
Right.
We can turn it into NFTs.
Right. That's right. Because all of a sudden you see a fighter with looks like a cigar in his mouth, and or something like that, or a beret on his head, or a cowboy hat, or but we would check with them first. We have all respect for the fighters, and this is never going to be a show that's going to try to make fighters look stupid or uncomfortable. We'll just make sure to check with everyone if we do any funny stuff. But anyway, so we are still waiting for our first guest, and that's, even though it's only a minute late.
That's the name of the game sometimes. Those of you that are on Fight TV, make sure to go on over to the Hannibal TV on YouTube. We are there. It is the Hannibal TV. Great place. We are on social media all over the place. It's at MMA Power Hour. We're not super active on social media right now, but we are going to be getting built up. We're rebuilding our squad and team. We've got an amazing production team here now with Third Wheel Podcast Studio. They've done such a great job the last few weeks. I intend on a long relationship here. I see that happening for quite a while. So we have an amazing production team here. If anybody wants to do live stream video or audio podcasts, great studio. Check them out, Third Wheel Podcast Studio. You can hit them up on Facebook, Instagram, or their phone numbers on their website. So,
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
tons of great stuff coming in 2022. Are you ready for this year to be done yet, Colin?
Oh, man, this is one of the worst years ever. I mean, this bullshit scamdemic, just my opinion, is got to be one of the most insanely stupid, ridiculous, pointless,
there is
times of
something
life,
about
It's
this
just,
pandemic that's really scammy.
Yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of people. I know people that have had the virus and really not well off at all.
Right.
Ending up in hospital and shit. But
Yeah.
you know what? It always comes right after their booster shot.
Right.
That's the weird thing.
Yeah,
about
yeah,
this.
and not only that, but it's like the goalposts constantly being moved. When you get one of the members of the Biden administration said, when you get the vaccine, the risk of COVID stops right there, and then that's changed to, oh, sorry about that. You got to.
No, we're getting told.
Get
We're getting told to talk about MMA.
That's it.
Well, we're going to. We're waiting for our guest, and we're just kind of shooting the shit. Right
Yeah,
now.
we got to shoot this shit a little bit.
Thank you, though, Steve. Yeah, we
God,
we
his name is
appreciate being
Steve.
there.
I guess if God, his name is Steve, that's who was telling us to do that. And thank you, Steve, or God. but yeah. So Anyway,
No, he
so,
says he shoves his thumb up his butt to win the MMA match.
That-
Well, I guess that's entertaining. That's
Yep.
if
man.
that's how you want to do it. I mean,
Man,
go
oh
ahead.
man, can Hawaii get sticky? That's what Elvis would say if he were around about this during this time. But anyway, yeah, I am so ready for 2022.
You
I got
have to do it.
Yeah, I got a great feeling. I'm not going to recap anything since God, aka Steve, doesn't want us to. But I will say that I'm really excited about 2022. I think it's going to be amazing. I think finally good things are going to happen for good people. But you got to work really hard. You got to try. You got to grind. I'm not saying no one is. I'm not saying we are more than anyone else, because sometimes we're not. But we I think the world is becoming more and more a place that if you don't grind, if you don't just go out there and literally leave your all, leave everything on the table, it's going to be hard to excel, and it's going to be hard to survive.
I mean, 100%. That's the way it is. It's always been that way. And a lot of people coast and find a way to coast, but let's be real, Colin. To really excel in life, it's always been tough. It's always been rough, and it's there's some people that are gifted a nice legacy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But not a majority of people don't get that legacy, and it's always been that way.
Exactly.
So there's nothing really new about that dynamic.
No.
Let's be real. And being in the fight community, I think most people agree, you got to work your ass off to get to the top. You don't get to the top just by everybody being at the top. That's not how it works. You work your ass off to get to the top.
Right. It's not like the entertainment business where it's looks and who you know that can get you to the top. No one's going to be able to get there in other industries unless you work really, really hard and really grind. And so, it's no one can do it for you. You got to be willing to put in the time and pay your dues. One of the things I realized being a little bit of an older guy is that sometimes we put these limitations on ourselves that make us discouraged when we don't get there. When we're 20 or 19, we say, okay, as long as we can make it big by the time we're 25, then we will be cool and we won't suck. And then by the time we get 25 and we didn't really make it, we feel we suck, and some people even end their own life there because they feel they didn't make it. Meanwhile, you had 60 more years to live. God bless anyone that was in that much pain. But then a lot of people set 30 as a goal. If I don't make it by the time I'm 30, then I'm just a worthless piece of crap. And then you don't, and then you start feeling like that, and then you know,
the dynamic is really interesting.
it's
Hey,
tough.
I
It
have
really
a
is.
question from somebody here, and it's a good one.
Okay.
So that way we can skip on over to MMA. Usman versus Colby 3. Do you think it's worthy of doing?
You know, yes and no. So that's a really good question. Whoever asked
Right,
that,
that's
really good.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Without a doubt,
it.
without a doubt, Colby has fought Usman closer than anybody. So if they were to make that fight next, would I be upset? No. Would a lot of MMA fans be upset? No. But I think they won't, and I think the reason why they won't is because, unlike boxing, they don't always want to have the same people there all the time. And I think there's a couple other really deserving guys, such as Leon Edwards,
Right.
such as Vicente Luque, who we've had on the show before and is a really great guy. I think Hamzat Chimaev and Bilal Muhammad. Bilal is a great guy we've had on the show. If they fight, that will determine who also will be in line there. And so, you know, I mean, it's interesting. Colby arguably won that last fight.
Oh, yeah.
Several people feel he did. It was really close. And so, in reality, should he have to wait till 3 other guys fight for the title? Probably not. But should he have to wait till maybe at least one of them or maybe 2 of them fight again for the title? I kind of think so.
Right.
You know, right? So the way I look at it is that Usman will fight probably Leon, because Leon's been higher rated longer than Vicente, and then whoever wins out of Usman and Leon, that's a rematch, and Leon did pretty darn well about 7 or 8 years ago against Usman, but Usman was not quite the Kamaru Usman 2.0 that he is now, but Leon I think has possibly gotten better as well too. After that fight, I think it also goes based on how the fight goes. Then I think it's going to be, you know what, the Luque, I think they got to give Leon and Luque a chance before they give Colby another chance.
They really need to.
Yeah, and then I think Colby could possibly be ahead of the winner of Chimaev and Bilal for the next shot.
Right,
and
right.
then, you know,
That makes
although,
sense.
yeah, but there's some really good guys at 170. Now all of a sudden I was hearing an echo for a second. Anyway, good question. That is a good question. Colby's badass. Colby's a good, really, really good, tough dude. And, you know, Bilal and Chimaev, I don't know if that's officially signed yet. Have you heard anything, Adam? I've heard them saying
I have
that,
not, but let me.
and Bilal looked really good against Wonderboy, didn't he? Bilal looked really, really impressive. I did pick him to beat Wonderboy, although I don't think I made him part of my official picks that I was super confident on Facebook in print. But on our show, I think we both went Bilal against Wonderboy, knowing that could go either way, you know. And Bilal's a really great guy, really great fighter, and man. But it's going to be so interesting to see some of these better guys against Chimaev, because Chimaev has shown that if you're good, but maybe not quite like a top 10 good guy, but like a top 15 good guy or top 20, then Chimaev will beat the brakes off you at both welterweight and at middleweight. But we're yet to see him against a top 10 guy, and especially like a top 5 or 6 guy. And, you know, there's levels to this game.
Yeah, there's definitely levels to this game, and
as
him
people
sitting
say.
there telling Bilal that it's only going to take 1 minute for him to beat him. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, bro.
Yeah.
There's
Get a hold
levels.
of yourself. Yeah,
There's levels.
yeah, exactly.
And maybe it does happen. Maybe it does. But yeah, there really is levels.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
this
I
game.
mean, you know, because even all right, Eric, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Let's bring you on here. We're live. We'll give you a proper introduction, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to have this next guest back on the show for part 2 of a great interview we did about a month ago. He is one of the most respected teachers and competitors, former Shuto champion, one of the most knowledgeable men in the world when it comes to submission grappling in both catch wrestling and jiu-jitsu, having trained with the likes of Danny Inosanto, Hickson Gracie, and some
Biggie
amazing.
Machado, Yuri Nakamura, Larry Hartzell.
Thank you for coming through on that. I appreciate that,
Sorry.
Eric. I know you're right.
Sorry.
I was reaching.
I've had a lot of really great teachers.
You absolutely
I've
have.
been fortunate.
Absolutely. And so this man is Erik, the Viking Paulson. Welcome back to the show, Erik.
Hi there. How are you guys?
Doing great, man. So happy to have you. Sorry for any technical problems or anything, and we're happy to have you in here to talk again. So Erik, man, so much to go over with you. And so first, I want to let a lot of people know that it's rare that someone who is a high-ranking authority on catch wrestling is also a ranking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teacher. I think that there's Erik and there's not too many other guys that can say that. And so if you look at it, catch wrestling, some people know about it. It's actually been in the United States, I think, for a couple hundred years, but there weren't really any well-known fights in catch wrestling when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came to this country in 1993, brought over by Jorge and Gracie and the family, producing the UFC. All of a sudden, that caught on, and now a lot of people know about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not enough people know about catch wrestling, and the reality is it's a very, very legit art, and a lot of top guys are catch wrestlers that you just don't know about. They just don't, it's just not mentioned enough. But there's a lot of guys that are catch wrestlers that are doing really well. I know that several have been in the UFC and other organizations, but not worrying so much about the people. I want to get some information from you, Erik, from a man who knows both, about what really is the difference. What are some of the similarities and what are some of the differences in catch wrestling as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because there are a lot of both, aren't there?
They're both known for submissions. A lot of the jiu-jitsu practitioners today are doing a lot of wrestling and working on their takedowns more so. Not practicing as much judo as they are wrestling. So they're all getting wrestling coaches. They're doing a lot more wrestling. They're taking their gis off because most of the money today is made without the gi on, such as Abu Dhabi and also MMA. If you want to become famous, you got to fight in MMA, or you've got to compete at the highest levels in these grappling tournaments. But even then, well, some of these guys are making money now, but most of the guys generally aren't making so much money.
Right.
It's more of a prestige thing than anything. But the money comes from your fame on TV and fighting and your fanfare.
Absolutely. And so the catch wrestling, let me tell you what I know, and then tell me, what if I'm wrong about anything here, and maybe some other, pieces of information that differentiates it too. So the catch wrestling official catch wrestling rules, as far as when adapted to sport, was that there really wasn't any guard pulling, because because it was going to be a battle of guys that were a little bit better wrestlers, and you could win with a submission, hold, or pin. Is that right, when catch wrestling was kind of adapted to sport?
Yeah, but they do have a leg scissors. So the leg scissors, the only problem with the leg scissors, when you hit the guard on somebody, they can pin you.
Right.
So a guy could be choking you out in a triangle, and then you put his shoulders, you just stack them and put his shoulders on the ground, and that's a pin.
Right. And so go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. So a lot of guys don't address, so a lot of the catch wrestlers don't address the back game. Whereas jiu-jitsu, the first thing they'll do, especially in Brazil, is they'll jump on their back.
Right.
So they really address the game off their back with the half guard and the butterfly and all the different guards. They work off their backs, and they work to dig themselves out of a hole.
Right.
Catch wrestlers' objective is to try to get you down, to control and ride you, and to either get a pin or a punishing hold, which is a submission, or a pain influence hold, like an Achilles or a face lock or a wrist lock or an ankle lock or some sort of crank.
Gotcha. And were a lot of the catch wrestlers back in the day, back in the days of Farmer Burns and Frank Gotch, and then coming to more modern days like Carl Gotch, Billy Robinson, Gene LaBelle, these were guys that kind of did have a good familiarity with judo and or wrestling and a really good top game along with submissions, because that was part of catch wrestling, right?
Yeah. So like, for instance, Billy Riley, he had the snake pit that was in Wigan, and they were right by the railroad tracks. So guys were coming and getting on and off the trains 24/7. You got guys from all over the world coming in, a lot of Japanese, a lot of guys from all over the place, Iran. They had some of the Indians doing the Paleway wrestling, and they have the Turkish, and they have all these guys coming in. So they're constantly on the mat rolling or getting challenged. So it was all self-discovery at that time. Everyone was working, and then most of the guys like Frank Gotch, Hackenschmidt, all these guys, Carl Gotch, they already had a wrestling background, and they were very good at Greco, freestyle. You have the three: folk style, freestyle, collegiate. But then you had all those different styles in catch wrestling that were also very popular, like the Lancashire and the collar, Irish collar elbow tie, Devon sheer wrestling. There's all these different types that Cumberland, but they had all these different guys from all over that were coming. They had different styles of wrestling, and a lot of them before the 30s, it was all like real. Before they started trying to publicize it and get it out in the public, and add acrobatics and acting and turn it into more of a pro wrestling style for entertainment.
Right, because when it was real, there would sometimes be an hour elapsed time or an hour and a half or 2 hours without a pin or submission, and there just wasn't enough people that were willing to watch it. It wasn't exciting even for people in the late 1800s. And
I don't know, the crowds. So when I trained with Horian, he brought me in his house and he showed me newspaper clippings of his dad competing and challenging all these people, bigger heavyweight judokas and all these other people. And there was always like a common enemy was the luta libre,
right,
which was the nogi guys. They're more like the MMA fighters today versus jiu-jitsu. So there was always that riff, and there was always guys to compete with that were boxers, wrestlers, never put a gi on. And then there were also judo guys that would say, your judo sucks, I'm going to throw you, and then I'm going to choke you or strangle you. And then he had all the challenges with those guys. But you would see the audiences sit there peacefully and quietly and respectfully and watching these matches go on for hours like that, or, there's extended periods of time. And it was crazy because, the audience was really into it.
Yeah.
And you got to figure like the depression, the hard times with everybody. I mean, they needed entertainment, and TVs weren't there. So that was their entertainment.
Makes sense. And then I think when TV came in and people got used to like shorter bursts of entertainment, maybe that's when that age crowd kind of wasn't willing to sit for an hour or two. And it's unfortunate because had they been willing to, we would have been treated to seeing real combat sports starting from 80 or 100 years ago. And I guess that just shows that sometimes each generation is not necessarily smarter. Sometimes they're dumber. But nevertheless, on that, so catch wrestling, I think, definitely goes back long before the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. With all respect to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the Gracies, of which I've been a part of for a little while, they pretty much started when Carlos Gracie, I think, did create it, and Elio Gracie did perfect it and started competing. So that, with all respect, is like about a 65 or 70-year-old style of combat, whereas catch wrestling, I think, is what, 200 years old maybe, or something like that?
Yeah, 1860, probably even before that, because the presidents, remember all the presidents that were wrestling.
Right.
That's another thing. If you're really into it, do a little research on all the presidents that wrestled and fought and boxed.
Right.
You know, because of thugs. It's like the Wild Wild West, and guys are stealing and doing stuff. So you had to learn how to fight. And then you had the sheepdogs, the ones that were protecting all the sheep. These guys were going out. They had to wrestle or box or fight, you know, just to get rid of these thugs. So people would learn how to wrestle and learn how to do that. And America's martial arts was boxing and wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. So catch wrestling, I think jiu-jitsu is called the gentle art, and I think they call catch wrestling like the violent art. And along with kind of it really being top game centric and not playing a guard, not having to try to take someone out to deep water and drown them by kind of stalling out or holding them. It's more dynamic and more aggressive. Some of the submission holds are similar. I know they call it Kimura, a double wrist lock, and they have other names, but are the holds in catch wrestling, are there holds in catch wrestling that are not normally found in jiu-jitsu, and are they somehow more painful or more aggressive, or what are some of the slight differences in the styles that are very similar?
Well, so when I learned Shudo had 10 combinations of submissions. Each combination was anywhere from 6 to 30 techniques. So it's 10 lock flows was equivalent to 148 to 150 submissions. That's how many were in the lock flow or in the library of submissions for that. So you're learning all these different flows when people move, transitioning from lock to lock. So it's called chain wrestling or chain submissions, lock for lock. You learn how to flow. The variations on a lot of it, because I was doing jiu-jitsu under Horian and Hoyce, then Hickson, and then the Machados. And in the early stages, I got to go to my first Shudo seminar in 1988. I started jiu-jitsu in 1986 in their garage. And I got to do my first seminar, and my roommate was a blue belt. And I asked him, I said, would you like to go check out the seminar? It looks interesting because it looked like there was striking and clinching and throwing and then ground submission. And it looked like punching on the ground. And I said, that looks like a real fight. I'd like to learn that because I'm interested. And then all of a sudden I went to it, and I came back, and my roommate said, hey, how did it go? And I said, I learned 30 submissions that I've never seen before.
Wow. That's crazy.
And he's like, 30 submissions? How did you learn that many in a short time? And I said, he taught so much stuff so fast. It blew my mind. And I said, man, are there more submissions than this, or is this it? He goes, oh, no, this is combo one. There's 10 combos.
Wow, of 30 each in each combo. Or flow
it's 6 to 30
wow.
submissions.
Still, that's crazy.
But there was a lot of them were upper body.
Okay.
And then leg attacks, Nelsons, turtle positions, turnovers, side control, north and south. They address 10 basic positions. And then a lot of people, so it was side control, Keizagatame, Kazuri Keizagatame, north and south, knee on belly, mount, side mounted, back mounted, guard, closed guard, open guard, standing versus guard, sitting up versus the guard. So back then they were already identifying all these different positions. And basically it's like wrestling. They're all based off of a reference point. Mm. And so your reference point are called situations. And that's how they were teaching it. This situation, you're in a plum and the guy grabs your head and he knees you, and then he goes a front guillotine. You're either top choking somebody or you're bottom trying to defend. So that was one. Or you shot on a guy and he sprawled. Now you're on your knees and he's on top, turtle, and you're on bottom, turtle. And then you had north and south, side, turtle back, and then you had hooks in. So the Japanese really identified that aspect of it as far as the technical aspect, and they broke it down in situations, and they had names for everything, which was different for me because, you ask, sometimes you'd ask what the name of the position was, and there was no name.
Right.
What's the name of the submit? There wasn't a name, but there may have been in Portuguese, but sometimes because of the Language barrier, it was hard to maybe transition
Right.
as far as the understanding what it was.
Gotcha. And there's a tremendous amount of crossover because I really believe that over the years, both catch wrestling practitioners and jiu-jitsu practitioners are looking at the innovations and the movement and submissions because I think both are legitimately able to claim any sort of innovation as something that could be part of their repertoire. So I think that there's probably not going to be enough difference in the arsenal or the moves for someone to say, listen, I'll participate in this match using only catch wrestling techniques, and for another guy to say, I'll participate in this match using only jiu-jitsu techniques, because so many of them are going to be crossover, right?
Look at the jiu-jitsu game now is all leg attacks. There were no leg attacks. There was an ankle lock. That's all they taught was an ankle lock.
Right.
A figure 4 ankle lock. I remember because I was at Hickson's and I brought him a tape and I said, here, watch this. Tell me what you think. And he said, there's a move on there I really liked. I'd like to show you. So he lined everyone up in a circle. This is a true story.
All right.
And he goes, okay. He goes one at a time. He went with each person and he knee barred every single person.
Wow.
And every time he'd knee bar him, he'd look back and he'd point or he'd smile or he'd laugh. And he knee barred everyone in the room.
That's amazing.
And I said, how, you learned that over this weekend? I gave you the video on like Thursday and it's Tuesday and you just knee barred everyone from that video.
Wow.
Because I really liked that one move. And I said, well, why the knee bar? And he said, because I'm very good at arm bars, and the knee bar is just a big arm. The leg is just a big arm.
Right, the same movement.
I'm very good at arm bars.
Right, I love that. Hickson was amazing. It's unfortunate that Hoist, I shouldn't say unfortunate, but the fact that Hoist got the fame for being the first participant in the UFC, you know, Hoist always admitted that Hickson was way better than him. And
you know what it was? Hickson was already established because he already had a lot of fights in Brazil.
Right.
So it was Hoyler and Hoist's turn to bring them up and build them up. So, and the way they did it, you know, they didn't put the strongest of the Gracies in because Hoist wasn't the strongest of all.
Right.
But he was super tenacious and methodical, and he beat his adversary, which was twice his size.
Right. Absolutely. We've only got about 6 more minutes, Eric, and because of that, I'm gonna definitely want to have you on again for a part 3 somewhere in the next few weeks. But in the next 6 minutes, I'm gonna throw you some rapid fire questions. Give me some answers as you have them. The guard in jiu-jitsu, for some reason, has a lot of haters, and they're not necessarily from a catch wrestling background, but I know you in a bunch of memes on Facebook, you're always putting the guys that not you aren't putting at all. Forget that's not what I meant. We're always seeing some people ripping on the guard, like a guy saying, you know, you see a pretty girl and she sees you're a guard puller, and she says, go find another pretty girl. I don't want any guard pullers here. Whereas you have Gordon Ryan, who's one of the best out there today, who is submitting people and frequently likes to pull guard. What's your feeling? Is there an overall, for people that are senior credentialed instructors and masters of submissions, is there any disrespect for the guard pulling, or is that just a bunch of jackasses trying to put it down because they don't know their guard very well and they don't like having
strong athletes are going at it.
Right.
They tie up, they clinch. You fight for the takedown. You try to get the throw or the takedown. It's more dynamic. You end up on top. You watch the scramble. You watch the counter, recounter. And you see these guys hitting each other like two rams and trying to finagle, manipulate, and strategically take each other down. People want to see that. When a guy just goes and pulls a guard right away, they go, oh, it's like a letdown. It's like a letdown because you want to see the people fight for the takedown.
Right.
Like I was in a locker room with Pat Miletich and the guys, and this guy got this guy against the corner and he had him tied up. And all of a sudden, we're all like sitting there going, yeah, what's he going to, well, let's see his counter. And the guy just jumped guard. And everyone in the locker room goes, oh.
Right. Because you know they're
disappointed to see it happen.
Right, because there's no more fighting for the position. And it's not as dynamic. Makes sense. But
the guard's not punch proof either.
That's true too. So in reality, in any kind of a street fight, you probably wouldn't be seeing anyone pull guard at all, or would there be exceptions?
Well, guys are good at guard now. So, I mean, if you're a proactive guard player, by all means, pull guard and sweep, triangle arm lock, take the back, take the leg. You should have 5 objectives when you pull guard. Take the back, take the arm, take the neck, choke them, arm drag them, get to their back. Or if they stand up, leg lock them.
Okay.
Or sweep them if you can.
Okay. Now, I know that there are some people that don't like wrist locks and other things like that because they say it's dirty, it's cheesy, it's not something that takes much
Well, we're
skill.
in 2022 almost.
What's your thought?
And guess what? If it's submission, now I'm not talking digits, but that's a small joint.
Right.
That's not this one.
Right.
And that's not this one. So that should be legal.
Yeah. And
it used to be last resort.
Right.
They go, boo, he wrist locked him.
Right.
Or ankle locked him. Right. Last resort.
Right. And the leg locks, really quick, the leg locks that are so pervasive. It seems like John Danaher, I think he's originally from South Africa, and then he's been a Henzo Gracie student for a long time.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, there we go.
Yeah, he's a Kiwi.
Right, and he's really, like, it seems like he's put in a lot of time on those leg locks, and his guys, the Danaher Death Squad, and now out in Texas, Gordon Ryan and Nicky Ryan and Nicky Rod, Craig Jones are really good at that. Is that something that everyone's probably going to catch up to at some point, or is that uniquely difficult to get?
Well, they're not hiding. They're not hiding like the tricks, so it's out there. They're doing DVDs with BJJ fanatics, and a lot of people are getting all that information and they're drilling it. The 10th Planet guys drill it all the time. If you ask me, a Shudo fighter today, if I was to look at a style like a Shudo guy, which was a catch wrestler, I would say it would definitely be Gordon a little bit, but more so it would be Gary Tonin.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention Gary Tonin. I don't know why.
Yeah, Gary Tonin's style is, he looks like a shooter.
Yeah.
He literally, because he shoots, and then if he fails, he'll lay back for the guard. He tries every possible way to get a submission. I mean, one of the best leg lock matches you ever saw was him versus Polaris. That was an unbelievable match. And the size difference.
Yes. And that, I forget which organization that was in. I think that might have been in the organization called Polaris, or maybe not, maybe a different one. But I remember that was about 5-6 years ago. That was really good.
Yeah, that's a great one to go back to.
Yeah, Tonin was giving away like 40 or 50 pounds in weight and still almost tapped Husamar on a couple of times. And for MMA, it seems like, and this is the last thing, we only got 2 minutes left, but for MMA, a lot of people, it seems like, are not utilizing it either because they're not confident enough in their skills, or the fact that they realize in MMA, if you have top position and all of a sudden you go for a leg lock and you don't get it, then you're almost always in a bad position to get your face smashed in. Is there any quick way around that, or any thoughts on that?
Yes, there is. If you're going to attack the legs, you better have attacked that leg 1,000 times before you attack that leg in a real fight. So it's like a double leg tackle. You're going to hit it 1,000 times. The same thing with your leg attacks. You need to drill the hell out of the leg attacks over and over and over and over. You don't do it twice and go, I got it. And you need to understand that when you're in a bad spot, how you bail out of there, because a lot of people, they'll die with a leg. They'll go for a leg lock and they'll pull the person on top. The guy will start to defend and get out. Next thing you know, you're on the bottom in a failed leg lock position. So if you get really good at leg attacks and then also work your transitions and your transitions out of it and your scrambles out, that would be, I think, expert.
Excellent. Now, I want to wrap it up, but I want to ask you here, and then we'll coordinate after. I hope you're available. I really want to have you on the Tuesday night before the Beneil Dariush Islam Makhachev fight, because we both know that's going to be crazy good. Both of these guys are high level. You got high level Russian Dagestani Sambo against high level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm really gonna want to go over with you to kind of break down what you think we might see, what some of the options about how things might play out will be. So let's coordinate that, because I'll definitely have you on before that, and we'll make sure we'll have proper time to go over it and a little bit more. But in the meantime, I know on social media, which is the social media that you're on the most, in case people want to be able to write to you and be able to talk to you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
Facebook Messenger, I'm just Erik Paulson with a K and an O. And then same thing on my Instagram. I have over 4,000 videos on my Instagram feed. So I get a lot of people that come in and say hi.
Absolutely. I was just watching a video on you when you were in your 20s. So there is video on you. A lot of people will say I've been doing this since this and that date, but you can't find any footage or proof. Erik Paulson, you can see videos where he looks like he's like 22 years old and he's submitting people. So you can't find a guy who knows more than him. Erik,
That was 5 years ago.
I love it. Me too. Yeah, we just aged quick in the last 5 years.
You just have to stay tan. If you get a good tan,
Yep.
Keep your teeth white, keep your hair short.
Yep.
Stay in fairly decent shape. You'll look young.
Absolutely. You're giving away all my secrets, but that's okay. People deserve it when they're Generation X guys like us. Erik Paulson, huge respect to you. Thank you so much for coming on. We'll coordinate and have you on right before Dariush and Islam Makhachev.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
To you
Happy
too.
New Year.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, my friend. Thanks so much. Dr. Anamorta, did you have a question for Erik? Okay. Thanks so much, Erik. And we're going to jump on the next guest. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Have a great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
I'm actually looking at the screen. I see our next guest is pretty much ready to go here. So I was pretty much saying just go straight into it, but I guess not.
Mike, you want to go? You want to go straight into it? There he is. Tony Gravley, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Appreciate you, man. UFC Bantamweight contender and a man who is an amazing athlete and is an exciting guy and a really good person. Welcome to the show for the second time. We're happy to talk to you again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me back on.
My pleasure. So you're going to be fighting here in Los Angeles on the big Ngannou against Gane. I'm hoping to see you there in person. In fact, I know I will because we're going to cover it cage side, and I can't wait to see your fight, man. You've had some success. You've shown great wrestling skills, and you're in an interesting matchup here. Last match was a tough one, but we all have tough ones. Did you learn anything from that match, A, and then B? Not that you need to throw out any excuse, but was there any issues that you had going into that last matchup?
Yeah, I mean, last fight was, it was a learning lesson. It was, one, I think the biggest thing that I can take from that is, you have someone finished, towards the end of the first round, and the second round you come out. And the only thing in my mind was like, oh, I just need to land a big one, because you watch them drop, and it's like, man, if I just land one big one, one more big one, he's done. But I should have been patient, did the same thing that I did the first round to get that knockdown, And I got a little wild, threw big punches, which left myself open, and he capitalized, landed a good strike, put me down, and got the finish. So it's a very bitter thing. That's the main thing. The main word I can think about how I feel about it is bitter.
Yeah.
From the start, it's one of those things though. It's just a part of the sport. You could be having one of the best performances of your career, and then all of a sudden one strike can just completely change it. It could change from the best night of your life to one of the worst nights of your life. So but no excuses. I went into the fight, I felt the best I've ever felt. I just came up short, and that's a frustrating thing, when you did everything right, you did the best you could, train as hard as you could in preparation, and you go out there and you give it your all, and things go your way. They start to go your way, and then it changes. So sometimes it can be frustrating, but just have to understand that you have to learn to take the good with the bad. Everything that you do, you got to learn something from it and move on, make the next fight better than the previous one.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you addressing that, because I know people don't want to talk about things that are negative, but it's part of the fight business. Everyone loses unless your name is John Jones, but ironically enough, for the man that never loses, every year he seems to lose in the public eye. It's kind of ironic what a great fighter he is, but as more and more time goes by without him fighting, and when he gets in more and more legal trouble, you start hearing a lot of people questioning, was he really that good? I'm not going to say who I talked to, but one fighter I talked to said, look back on when John Jones came in. He came in when guys were kind of still getting away with being really good at one skill set, and that was it. And he came in good at all three skill sets, being super long, this huge reach, and being a really good athlete. And so the time he came in was like perfect. It was almost like you couldn't ask for a better time, where basically it was almost like shooting fish in a barrel for John Jones. Like, he probably knew before each fight, this is going to be a cakewalk. I don't really even have to train for this fight. And a lot of people are saying, had John Jones been 23 years old right now, it would have been a different story. And I think it's true, but I think he does have skills. It sure is going to be interesting to see where he goes. But for the most part, not asking you to comment on him, but other than him, everyone wins, everyone loses. Like Elio Gracie always said, you either win or you learn. And I think that is really true. That's one of the things that is interesting in combat sports, is that keeping your cardio and not getting gassed is an important thing. But if you have someone hurt and you never go for the finish, then you're always going to be a guy who wins by decision, if that, or is in a draw. You know, there's several guys that every fight they're in a split decision, or every fight they're in a decision. And even though it's legit, I think matchmakers start getting less excited about those guys, because they're like, there's never going to be a stoppage. The handicappers are saying, we'll bet for this guy to go decision because he never stops anyone. So you want to go for it, and I definitely understand that. And it is so tough to know how much to put in, but I think you probably learned, like you said, an example from that fight, that if you feel you got it and you just, let go and put 100% energy into it, then you are taking a little bit of a risk. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, because you know far more than I do about being a professional MMA fighter. But it sounds like maybe that's something you were able to put into your memory banks and put some of that intel into your game for next time.
Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely. You think about, you look back, and there's always, you look back and you think, oh, should have did this, should have did that. And if I could go back, I would do it different, but I can't. So the only thing I can do is take it. And, the next fight, if we get in a situation, my memory's pretty, I have pretty good memory when it comes, when I lose, I learn quick. So, that's always going to be in the back of my head. I'm going to remember really fast that scenario. And, I'll take care of that, handle it a lot different
Absolutely.
the next time.
Absolutely. And that opponent is a tough guy. I mean, you've been in with very tough guys, and you're a very tough guy yourself. And it's a funny thing about that last guy, Nathan Madness, he's kind of deceptive. Like, you almost don't feel like he's that strong a guy, or that talented, or that athletic a guy, but there's something weird. He's one of these weird guys that I think kind of is, surprises people. And so, you know how they say if someone loses against someone who goes on like a 10-fight win streak, they say that loss aged well, because the guy he lost to is that good. But I think you can be that good as well. You're fighting out of ATT, am I right, or have you moved on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I train out at American Top Team in Coconut Creek.
And
Yes,
you got so many great people there. Tell me, who are some of the guys there around your weight class? Because you're 135. Who are some of the flyweights, bantamweights, featherweights, lightweights that you get work in at ATT, and especially for this camp, if it's not a secret?
There's a lot of really tough people in ATT in general, specifically the 125, 135s. So I've gotten the opportunity to train with everyone. Kyoji Horiguchi, Adriano Moraes, Pedro Munoz, Marlon Moraes, Alessandro Pantoja, Jussi Formiga, and then Ricky Bandejas. We got a couple of guys that people don't really know about. There's so many people, so many guys that fly under the radar right now, but will have their opportunity, like Sal Guerrero, Jason Eastman, Mauricio Gomez. These are guys that people don't know yet, because they haven't broken out into the big stage yet, and they're still pretty early in their career. So there's a lot of big names that I get to train with, and I also get to train with the guys that don't quite have their name out there yet. So, we all work together. It's a really, I love the atmosphere, because if you're not training for a fight, you should be helping someone else prepare for a fight. And, when it's your turn, it's the same way around, so everybody helps everybody. Everybody makes sure that they're doing whatever they can to help you prepare.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a great team environment.
Without a doubt. And they say iron sharpens iron, and those are a bunch of killers you have there. You know, one thing I always wondered, and I haven't trained for a short while here in the pandemic, but I was up until the about a year ago, and I was training a lot. And not a high level guy, but a purple belt. And I know that as not a professional fighter, there's days that I would come in and I'd be really sore, and like my back was really sore, and I was older than a lot of the guys there, so I would say I'm going like half speed today. You know what I mean? And I wasn't the only guy. There were several guys that come in and they say, "Yeah, I'm gonna roll, but I'm like I haven't gotten a good night's sleep for a week." And what happens when you're a pro fighter? You're a young guy. You're in great shape, but you have a fight coming up, and you don't necessarily want to like go necessarily super hard. Do you do it anyway? Are you able to tell one of your training partners, "Hey, look, I just want you to be mindful of the fact that I do have a fight in 3 weeks, so I'm not necessarily wanting to go batshit crazy here"? Or how does that work? What's the communication like?
So I guess it depends on the person. You know, I've done both. Well, for the most part, I'm kind of stubborn. You know, I could come in not feeling good, and I do it anyway. You know,
Okay.
it's hard for me to halfway train.
Right.
So you know, I can tell how many times like you come in and you think, oh, I'm not feeling too good, but the second you start going, it's just your body's in like you're just used to doing it. It's no way to like halfway do stuff. But yeah, when you have a fight, the closer you get, the more you know, you train with. I get the opportunity to train with a lot of people, so we kind of know when we're all fighting. We're constantly asking each other when we're fighting, so kind of have an idea. And everybody's really good partners, so nobody's really trying to hurt anybody. So I haven't had any issues with that. Everyone's very respectful. When you know you're put in different positions. I mean, when you're grappling, you can get put in all kinds of positions, especially things like anything dealing with a knee or an ankle. Those are things that you know you can. All it takes is a one minor pop, and you could be done. So,
Right.
but everybody that I've worked with, everybody's really mindful, and they make sure to protect you, especially the closer you get to a fight.
That makes sense. And yeah, because I can see you go hard, but I think, like they say, there's no shame in tapping out in the gym with your training partners when you're learning. So I think probably the better fighters are smart when it comes to that. And I would imagine probably training really hard with a partner, especially if they know you have a fight coming up and they're a professional fighter like you, is that if they catch you in something and you're not somehow tapping out, will they sometimes just let it go?
Yeah, actually, they will. You know, sometimes I get stubborn. We all get stubborn. We're
Right.
fighters. You know, that's part of what we do is to be stubborn. But yeah, there's plenty of times where you know you catch somebody to move or you get caught in a move and you may not want to tap, but a lot of times people just let it go because they don't want to be the one that accidentally, like I say, it could be like one extra ounce of force and something could pop. So a lot of times people are very mindful and they'll hold a submission. They'll like kind of look at your face to see like, you know, to make sure like to see how far it is, you know. But yeah, everyone, I haven't had anyone that you know try to maliciously pull a heel hook or you know break my arm or anything like that. You know, they try to submit, but it's on the it's more on the person that's getting put in submission. They should understand that hey, like this is practice,
Right.
especially if there's a fight. You know, I could in a real life in a fight, maybe I wouldn't tap. Maybe I
Right.
just let the guy break it. But if you're preparing for a fight, you don't want to do that. You know, it doesn't make sense to get injured before you get into the fight. You know,
Right.
when the fight's
Exactly.
going on, it's different. Your adrenaline's going. Maybe you don't feel a heel hook or an arm bar that's just as tight, and you keep fighting through it. But you know, sometimes um, I'm sure all fighters do this. You know, you fight through certain things to see how far it can go before you know your breaking point. But luckily, I haven't had anything actually break or been injured, so that's good.
Absolutely. And I'm not a professional fighter. I'm not trying to make myself out to be a badass because I've sure been caught a lot. But I remember one time I had a guy in a really good armbar from guard, and it was a weird position though, and he was kind of crouched, and he decided to like try to step over, but he was going the wrong way. which was just making it even tighter, and I could feel how tight it was. And my father had just passed away, and he was a medical doctor, and I actually pictured my father's face saying, "Let it go, let it go now," and I just let it go right then. And then my trading partner was like, I got out of it. How about that? And I was like, yeah, you did, brother. You definitely got out of it, man. You're all good. You know what I mean?
You're a good partner.
Thank
You're a really good partner.
Thank you.
The
Yeah.
gym needs people like you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just figured. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not there, and I'm always like the older brother anyway, and always training with guys like 5, 10, 15 years younger than me, and I'm like, what's the point? I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not going to do anything, and I really didn't want to injure anyone, and I just figured that, and not only that, but we're not even pros, so it's like if it made a training partner of mine feel better to feel he got out of it, that's fine. It's like, why should I have any ego? But yeah, no, ATT is such a great team. You've got great people there. You know who I had on the show a couple weeks ago? I think kind of a somewhat newer addition to your team, the heavyweight BJJ champion, Marcos Buchecha Alameda. Yeah.
Buchecha, yeah.
He's a good dude, right?
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. He's like one of the nicest guys, but he can also be one of the scariest,
Yeah.
But it's so cool to watch. I remember when he first. I guess I've been at the gym a little bit longer than him.
Right.
I've been there for, let's see, almost 2 years now. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Been here for almost, well, going on 2 years. Once the year starts, year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, he's a tough guy, and he's really nice. He's actually really nice. But I'd say he's definitely one of the most experienced jiu-jitsu grapplers in the gym.
Without a doubt. Were you happy to see him get that win over at One Championship?
Absolutely. He that strength, like you could tell, like it was like it's something about certain people's squeezes are just different,
right.
Like it was a Gable grip, and just you could tell the squeeze that he had was like it was a choke, and it didn't feel good either, like
right.
It was both.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. That's just what I was telling a couple friends of mine. I'm like, wow, it doesn't even really look like he necessarily has this in really tight, but I think he had the guy body locked or something else, and just his knowledge being that high level in jiu-jitsu, he was able to put enough pressure on the guy that the guy could feel that it was just going to start injuring, all parts of the guy's body. And, that's one of the things with these guys that are that good in jiu-jitsu is they don't even really necessarily have to have the position that good. And I think we all want to try to get the position as good as we can, but I think the higher level you are, the exact position and everything being perfect is less important. And that even makes them more dangerous, because I think a lot of times the person defending thinks, okay, well, he doesn't really have hooks in. I'm turning the wrong way for him to get a choke on. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, why am I tapping out? And it's because, right, you got someone that high level on you. They didn't need to have all the position that good. But I do believe normally position before submission is usually the mantra for all the rest of us that are not jiu-jitsu gods, right?
Yes, sir. And then, you think about, I wonder how many, he's probably been in that position millions of times. You know? The squeeze along with the torque and the hip pressure, it's a lot of different things going on in that guy's mind as he's getting twisted, he's getting choked, his neck's getting cranked. So he's got a lot of stuff to think about that doesn't feel good. So,
yep.
And he probably realized, he wasn't going anywhere.
Without a doubt. Yeah, he's just got a lot of potential. And one of the things that I talked to him about was I said over the years, a lot of guys would come from submission only from jiu-jitsu, and that was the only skill they had. Maybe they found they could take a punch, right? But they didn't have their striking down much, and they didn't have their wrestling down much. And I asked Buchecha about that, and I said, because if that's where you're at, that's kind of could that maybe be a problem? And he agreed. He said, you're absolutely right. And he said, I know I can't go in there with just jiu-jitsu in MMA and think I'm gonna beat anyone. So he's training his wrestling hard with Steve Mocco. He mentioned that Steve Mocco is more of a beast than anyone I think he's ever met. And in wrestling, and then he's practicing his striking. Do you do some wrestling training with Steve? I know you're a really good wrestler, so I don't know if you have to.
Absolutely. Mako was one of I've known of Mako and watched him wrestle for a long time. I wrestled, majority of my life, starting 6th grade. So, I remember watching Mako wrestle, and I remember him being like, still to this day, one of the most feared heavyweights. He would, I mean, it was like almost like a fight without throwing punches, and he was entertaining too. There's a lot of heavyweight matches that aren't quite as entertaining, but he was like he was a bear. That's why they call him the bear. And he was always entertaining to watch. I remember thinking like, and watching him, I was like, man, it's got to be so scary knowing that you have to go out and wrestle this guy. And then actually watching him fight, the way he moved was so good. I think his movement is better than my movement, and I'm a bantamweight
Right.
as far as fighting goes. But yeah, Mako's always been. I've always looked up to Mako and thought very highly of him. So now, like getting the opportunity to be around him and learn from him in wrestling, and then also actually help him run his wrestling club, his Mako wrestling club. So
awesome.
I help teach the kids. So I get to spend a lot of time around Mako, and it's a really cool experience. It's like almost like it's crazy when you've looked up to someone for so long, and you finally get the opportunity. It's crazy how life kind of guides you in these points. So where like you look up to these people at the gym, whether it's wrestling or from their fighting, and then now I see these guys every day, and I get to meet these guys and work with these guys. So it's a really cool experience.
Absolutely, it's got to be a great feeling for sure. And I get the same feeling, honestly, having been a UFC fan for so many years, and all of a sudden I get to talk to you guys like this. It's a treat, man. So that same feeling you get with him, I get with you.
I appreciate it. It's awesome. It's cool, man. It's just crazy how life works. You set your mind on something. Like as a kid, this is what I wanted to do. Me and my dad used to watch UFC all the time back in the day, like back when it was like, I think MMA was maybe the 3 promotions I can remember are Pride, UFC, and like King of the Cage. Those are
Right.
like the 3 biggest ones that I can remember. At least the ones that were shown in America, and Pride is in Japan. But I remember watching and telling my dad that's what I wanted to do. And back then, my dad was like, "No, you're not doing that," because that was back when it was less rules. It was
Right.
more barbaric. There
Yep.
weren't any weight classes. So, but to now, go through life and almost like lose the idea of being here and get like a normal job and working, to coming back and my life circling back around and being back in the position where this is now my reality. It's just crazy to think about.
That's awesome, and it seems like you do have a gratitude for that and appreciation, and I think that's a big part of life. I think sometimes if we take something for granted or don't really appreciate it, it can be gone before you know it. So I think you have a great attitude on that. Reminds me of a funny story on King of the Cage. I went to King of the Cage with a buddy of mine, and his dad took us, even though I'm going to admit, we were both over 18 then, but still, his dad took us, and it was 2002. And as we were leaving at the end of the event, Quentin Rampage Jackson was walking in front of me, and Rampage had just lost to Sakuraba. And after me and my boy and his dad got in the car, my boy said, "Oh man," he said, "what I was about to do," and he said, "You were right behind Rampage," and he said, "I was standing behind you. I was going to try to say in a muffled voice so it sounded like you were saying it, that Sakuraba's the best, you suck."
Oh
And he said, and then Rampage would turn around and probably punch you. And I said, "Thank you for not doing that. I really appreciate that," because I didn't want to be,
that
because
would not have been good. We
No.
might not have been here talking.
I was going to say, right, because I was about 165 pounds then, and Rampage was like probably 220, and a professional fighter. And I'm like, "Thank you for not doing that. That might have been funny for you, but wouldn't have been good for me." Although hopefully Rampage wouldn't have just punched a fan, but you never know. He was like in his early 20s then, and he might have been not happy to hear that.
You never know. And some people, after coming off a loss, people handle losses differently. So
Yeah.
some people rage, some people, get more like a depressed state.
Right.
You don't know. So he could have very well,
Yeah.
Threw you over something.
Yeah. He
You
picked
never
me up,
know.
and he could have done the Rampage body slam on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad, because you're right. I may not have been here. Well, you've got a good fight coming up on the 22nd at the Honda Center here in L.A. For some reason, for a minute, I thought you were like a California guy, but you never really were. You've been in Florida with ATT, but where did you grow up at, if I could ask?
I'm originally from Martinsville, Virginia.
Okay.
So it's like Southern Virginia. So I spent a lot of time, in Virginia and North Carolina throughout most of my life. I went to college in Appalachian State, which is in Boone, North Carolina. So, and with wrestling, I traveled a lot, up and down across the country with wrestling, but I've actually never been to California. I was supposed to go to California a couple years ago before I got signed to UFC. I actually used to fight for King of the Cage, and I held their title. And I was supposed to fight in a guy who's actually in the UFC now. His name's Johnny Munoz.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was supposed to fight him. I don't remember exactly where it was.
Somewhere outside
but it
LA,
got
probably.
canceled.
Sorry,
But that was
probably somewhere outside LA, maybe, I would imagine, like on the
maybe so. I can't remember exact city, but it was maybe it was somewhere near LA.
Yeah, because they have a reservation. They have like a couple reservations where they were King of the Cage. That's where I went like 19 years ago for that King of the Cage. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, so this is going to be your first time. You excited to come out to LA?
Yeah, I am. I've never been that far. The farthest I've been out that way was, Nevada. Nevada's the farthest I've been. So, I can go all the way out to California now. Say I've been from one coast to the other, pretty much.
That's awesome. So your opponent is from Brazil. What do you know about this guy, and what do you expect from him?
I know he's got a lot of finishes by submission. Seem to be guillotine. Um, I've watched his. I know he's from he's coming off a win on the Contender Series, so I think he's. I watched the fight, and he seemed to be more of like a tie stance on the feet, kind of a straight up stance. But at heart, I think he's more of a grappler. He wanted to be on top the most. But no, he's a tough guy. He's tough. He's got a lot of experience. I think he's like maybe 18-3. So he's got a lot of experience. He's a tough guy. Had some good wins. I expect it to be a tough fight. That's every fight that I'm gonna be in from now on is gonna be a tough fight.
Without a doubt.
So I expect him to fight hard from beginning to end. But I'm obviously looking to get the finish, regardless. But I'm excited for this fight. I'm excited to this is my first big card, so UFC 270. It's my first one that's not a fight night.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Get that kind of that more exposure when it's on a pay-per-view card. You get a little more exposure, and people. A lot of people view it either way, but just the fact that it's a pay-per-view card, there's a little more attention brought to it. Maybe people more likely to look and follow and tune in. So I'm excited for that exposure. Excited to have another tough opponent, and just ready to win and get back in the win column and keep that going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 2022, that would be a great way to start it off. Anybody from American Top Team on the card other than you?
Alexei Olenek. And Mozar Evelev.
Oh, wow. And I know that Evelev is fighting Ilia Topuria. And is that bantamweight or featherweight?
That's featherweight.
Okay. And then
those would be some big bantamweights.
Yeah, I guess they would. That's a hell of a fight.
Actually used to fight bantamweight for M1. I think he had fought bantamweight like years ago.
Did he? Evelev, you mean?
I don't know how he made bantamweight. He's big.
Yeah.
He's strong.
Oh, yeah. And he's, I think, 15-0, and Topuria is 11-0. Isn't it kind of weird that this early on they want to try to tag a loss on one of these guys' records? That seems kind of odd.
So. I think both of those guys, and they still either way. I'm not sure if they're each ranked, but they could be. They're right on
the cusp,
close to being ranked. But I think it is a little odd that they have those two, because they both have they're undefeated in the UFC and they're doing well. It is kind of weird that they would put those two together, but I guess at some point somebody's gotta, regardless, their goal is the same,
Right. And you know what? I think sometimes I have a feeling once in a while when the matchmakers propose a match like that, one of the guys' camps says no. I have a feeling maybe, right, that's maybe why we don't see matchups like that anymore, because one camp is like, why should I put my undefeated guy up against this other undefeated guy? They've both only had 3 or 4 fights in the UFC, and someone says no. So this is, I guess, an interesting situation where both camps have so much confidence. And last time we saw Topuria beat Ryan Hall, and Ryan Hall did come up victorious in his last fight. I think it was with Derek Minner, and it was a good fight. Derek's a cool dude. But Hall is slick, and it just seems like Topuria was aware enough of the submissions and the leg locks to like not even let Hall make it that close, and was so explosive. It just beat the crap out of him. Topuria, though, is a very confident dude. I was at that fight in press row, and I think he made some things like he's ready to be champion or he's ready to be top 5 guys, and I thought, I don't know, that may be a little premature for this young guy to be saying that, but Evelev is tough. That's going to be a war, man. I'm sure you're going for your teammate, but how do you think that one's going to unfold? Are their styles kind of similar? I'm not as familiar with both as I should be, but I think Topuria might like to strike a little bit more, but he knows his ground game. Evelev is just one of these kind of Russian crushers, top pressure top guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you pretty much have it spot on as far as as far as I know. I haven't seen Mozart's opponent that much. What's his name again?
Ilya Topuria.
Topuria. I've seen a couple of his fights, but I haven't seen enough to really know exactly what whether. But it seems like he's more of a striker, I would say. But I think Mozart's going to pressure him a lot, and it's going to be a lot of top pressure, like you said. I think Mozart's strong, really strong. I think he once he gets his hands on him, it's going to be hard to get away. So I think that's going to be majority of the fight. But either way, I think it's going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, without a doubt. I like the fact that Movsar is a little bit older. He's 27 and the other guy's 24. Now, not that guys that are under 25 can't win, but again, it seems like unless your name is John Jones, most of them aren't winning the big fights. Because, I mean, as I'm sure you know, I don't even think most guys even get their man strength until they're maybe 28 or so. I'm sure you notice the difference between your strength now and 5 years ago, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I can definitely tell the difference in my man strength, So, but yeah, the older I just turned 30, and
right.
I feel like I'm getting stronger as time goes on, So, but yeah, I agree that's the thing, I can tell the difference from when I was 24 and now that I'm 30. I can tell the difference
much stronger,
drastically. So there is a difference,
Yeah.
So.
I think that goes to the advantage of Movsar.
Yes, sir.
Without a doubt. And then Olenek, who's Olenek going against,
Greg Hardy.
Interesting, man. Isn't that an interesting fight? Greg Hardy is a unique dude, man. I've had a good back and forth chat with him after an event. He's a respectful guy. A lot of people hate him for some crap going down with his ex-girlfriend. I'm not going to diminish it. If he's beating his ex-girlfriend, shame on him. But I know that sometimes there's some mitigating circumstances, and I know people hate him. He's a guy who's overcome asthma or deals with asthma and can still fight. He never really had any combat sports background. It was all football. And he did beat a few guys, and since then he's lost to a few guys. Isn't Olenek like 42 years old or 43 or something?
Yeah, he's got a lot of fights, a lot of fight experience.
He really does. So this is kind of a good matchup because – you kind of feel almost like whoever loses that fight kind of going to maybe not be in the best position going forward. And I always hate that. I don't want anyone to lose their job in the UFC, not that they would. But I think this is kind of a good test to see which guy can grit his teeth and dig his heels in and, make a statement that he wants to stay in the UFC.
Yes, sir, I agree. I think obviously Greg's a more athletic guy, and he's going to want to keep it standing. Obviously, Alexei's strong. He's also another strong guy, and he's weird because a lot of the chokes he gets are things that, like, some of them look like something you would do to your little brother,
right?
But he actually does them on other trained athletes at a high level. So he's just got that. He knows how to use that strength, that torque. And the patience of he'll squeeze a head, like they call it, I guess you call it scarf choke, like a headlock.
Right, and the Ezekiel choke. He's also the Ezekiel choke master.
Yes, sir. I remember seeing him mounted. He would be mounted a couple times and finish the choke
from the guard, from the bottom, and even if he was mounted, you're right. No, he was mounted, not even the guard. Someone mounted on him, and he would submit them. Yep, crazy. Yeah. Now wait a second. Didn't Greg used to be ATT?
He used to be 18. I think he stopped. I think about the time I came, I remember seeing him there a little bit, and then he kind of left. I think he left with Dean when
Right,
Dean left,
right.
um, and he
I
left with Dean. So
right. I wonder if Alexei was there then, and if so, I wonder if they trained together. If they were both there, they probably would have maybe trained together at some point, huh?
maybe so. I guess it's a possibility. I'm pretty sure Alexei has been there longer than I have, so I'm sure he has, at some point trained with him.
Interesting. How now psychology? Everyone knows that psychology. We got like 4 minutes left, so I'll make it quick here. Everyone knows that the mind and psychology in fighting is a huge part of it. If Alexei was beating, was always able to tap Greg, let's say 2-3 years ago, does that advantage in his head mean a lot? Does that give him like a huge advantage in an MMA fight just because when they were training in the gym that he was able to tap him, or is that not always a big deal, would you say? And I'm just predicting this. This may not have been the case. But if it was, how big a deal is something like that?
I think it could be, in Alexei's mind, it could be an advantage, but you never know. For one, I didn't, only those two know like what really
Right.
happened, and it could be that the situations they got in, they started grappling. It was a grappling class. Maybe it was easier to get. They started with his hands on him already.
Okay.
I don't know the situation, but that's definitely a confidence booster, knowing that you felt this guy and you know what he feels like, and maybe Alexa got his hands on him and it was easier. Maybe Greg was able to survive some. You never know. But if you personally, if I knew that I grappled somebody and I knew I was the better grappler, I would have confidence, more confidence than usual going into the fight. But you also have to take into consideration that this sport is so crazy that you can't be too confident, and you in your head kind of have to, not like forget the past, but not harp on it too much, because things a lot can change in a couple months. So you think of 2 years, a lot of things could have changed in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of the day, Alexei still has to get his hands on Greg. So I don't know how much Greg's going to run from him, So, so you never know. But I do know that Alexei will eventually get his hands on him. And if he does, and if he locks his hands, Greg's going to be in some trouble.
Absolutely. In the last minute we have you, real quick, who's most likely to be and new? Davidson Figueiredo over Marino or Cyril Gane over Francis?
I think I think Cyril Gane over Francis.
Yeah, because he's
think
so
I think
tricky. He's so crazy unorthodox
he
tricky,
is.
isn't he?
He moves well, and the thing is you can tell the different. These styles are completely different. I feel like the longer the fight goes, the more in favor it is for Cyril Gane. And also he's hard to hit, and Francis is kind of wild, So, and I think also, Gane also is a little more well rounded, and I think he'll clinch some, and he'll use everything. He'll grapple. He won't just stand in front of him. And Francis has to find him and has to land a punch, but Gane's hard to find. But if he does land, all it takes is one piece of a punch from Ngannou, and it's over. So
Yep.
it's a dangerous fight. Gane has to fight a very smart fight from start to finish. Every second has to be smart.
Without a doubt. If you want to look back at something in boxing, which might be similar, look up Ali versus Foreman. They only fought once, and it was like almost 50 years ago. But they were both about 6'3.5". Foreman was, their weight was actually similar. It was really similar physical matchup to these guys. Foreman had been knocking people cold, and Ali was already a little bit past his prime, but was so tricky and so skilled and so slick. And I think this is actually the Ali Foreman of MMA, isn't it?
I can see that. I can definitely see that being the case.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Well, Tony, what's the best social media place for people to support you?
Um, um, Probably Instagram. It's probably the I'm not really on Twitter much. I'm not on Instagram that much. I need to be more active because I know it's important nowadays. We live in a very digital world nowadays where, you know, Instagram and other social media platforms are very important, you know, to get your name out, get your
Always
support
helps.
through. So,
Yep.
Tony Gravley 135 on Instagram and Twitter. You know, if you could give me a follow, some likes, I would truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Tony Gravely, I really appreciate you, man. You have a great attitude. You're a great guy to chat with. You make it easy for me as an interviewer. I really appreciate it, man. Can't wait to see you win, and can't wait to be talking to you after in the post-fight press conference on the 22nd.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I look forward to getting the win and then getting to meet you in person.
Fantastic. Same here, my friend. You have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Will too. Take care. Bye-bye. And that was Tony Gravely out of American Top Team. Can't wait to see him beat this opponent from Brazil. I think he's going to really take it to him, and that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, a little bouncing back. He deserves it.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely great fighter. So any minute, I think, as soon as we see our next guest, then we'll jump in, and that will be good. And so, yeah, good show so far, guys. And Mike, you're there alone this time, aren't you? There's no assistant. You running the whole thing. The top guy is running things here. So Mike, you like the show so far?
Great episode.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Dr. Adam Rorta, you're excited. You got the Lith Token sweatshirt.
Always.
And you got the Lith Token hat.
That's about all I wear anymore is all my Lith Token gear.
I
Wearing
like
it
it.
everywhere. And an MMA Power Hour and cross-train MMA fighter.
That's
Literally
it.
the only shirts I'm wearing ever.
Exactly. I like that. I remember when I started the cross-trained, when I first had the cross-trained MMA fighter gear, I was wearing it a lot, and my girl was complaining, why are you always wearing this and that? But I remember I met a vendor at an event, and he said, why would you wear someone else's gear? He said, if you have your own gear, why would you want to advertise anyone else's to wear your shit?
It's funny you say that, actually. Sticky Fingers was getting an interview the other day, and somebody's like, oh, I see you're wearing your own name on yourself. And he's like,
why wouldn't I? Right?
why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
I'm only going to wear my own gear. It doesn't make sense to wear somebody else's. When I got it, I'm going to sport it.
That's it. Exactly. If no one else is paying me to wear any other gear, might as well wear your own gear. Girlfriends probably wouldn't like it that much, but then again, if it's good-looking gear, then it should be good enough.
My girlfriend loves my Lith Token gear on me. Come
And
on,
the Power
man.
Hour.
Yeah, the Power Hour gear is great.
Without a doubt, feel the power.
Of which, if anybody wants to buy that, I'll actually have some printed up at cost. Doing that is going to be, I'm not sure what the price is, but it's a little more expensive going this route than if I were to have them pre-made for you. But we can still get it at cost for you and have some amazing stuff worked up. Even with the new logo, willing to do that for you. Lith Token, head on over to lithtoken.io. They do have a merch shop where all profits and proceeds go to the Indigenous Persons Initiative wallet, and it goes to fund some great programs down in South America with the indigenous people and educating on sustainability and reusing the clean water that is used with some new lithium mining technology, very green technology. So, Colin, who's our next guest again?
I'm glad you mentioned that because my mind is is drawing.
Well, that's not good.
Drawing a blank.
You're the guest producer today.
Can you see the people that I had you reach out to? Wait, no. You know what, Mike? I'm gonna look at. Don't say anything, Mike. I'm gonna look at the text between us all. Okay, and let me see here, and let me see.
Oh, come on, it's Sugar Ray.
We just. Oh yeah, Sugar. Yeah. Ray Sefo. Okay, so. We should hopefully see him. He's actually 5 minutes late. Let me text him really quick.
He's a busy man.
He definitely is.
That actually usually happens.
Is.
He's usually right about 5 minutes late, so we'll catch him any minute here.
Ready for you on the Zoom link if you are, brother, question mark.
How could we forget that? Sugar Ray Sefo.
I know. Well,
legend in his own right.
Well, I'm the one that's interviewing these people. My mind's focusing on these people. That's why you guys should remember. Mike did remember. Okay, so hopefully he is really, we're looking forward to having him, and hopefully he'll see this with this text hopefully coming from him any minute. And you did send the Zoom link to his phone number, right, Mike? Yep. Okay, so hopefully he should be here any minute. But, yeah, Tony's a really good dude. Yeah, he's definitely had some really good performances in the UFC, and everyone wins some and loses some, like I said, except for John
Mhm.
Jones. Speaking of which, man, I'll tell you, John is like, I think 33 now or 34, which is not old, but because of all these personal issues, you know, he went from fighting 2 to 3 times a year. And I know as a champion, a lot of fighters are only given the chance to fight twice a year. But he was fighting at least twice a year up till about 5 years ago.
Right.
And in the last 5 years, I think he's fought a total of 4 times or 3 times. And a lot of it's been because of a suspension and other personal
Right,
issues.
right.
So, and the last fight I think was like over 2 years ago. I don't think he's fought in the pandemic at all. And now he's going to be fighting at
He
heavyweight.
hasn't, has he?
No, and because he vacated the
flying.
title. It is. He vacated the title, and then Jan Blachowicz beat Dominic Reyes for it,
Mhm.
and then Blachowicz defended once and then lost once. So it might even be closer to 3 years, somewhere around 2. But it's so interesting because John is so amazing. But one of the things he had at light heavyweight.
It's 2 years because he fought the last fight of the year 2 years ago,
Did he?
2019. Yep,
Okay,
I remember that.
So that's probably 2.5 years now then. Oh no,
No,
you mean December of 2019. Okay, yeah, okay. So here's the weird thing: at light heavyweight, he had height and reach on everybody. At heavyweight, he's got a little bit of height on a few guys, but not much. He's got
Right.
a little bit of reach on a few guys, but not much. Nothing near what he had at light heavyweight. And at light heavyweight, he was cutting weight. He was a big, strong
Right.
guy. At heavyweight, he normally would be a little bit of a smaller guy, although there's pictures of him looking like he's been bodybuilding and eating to make 265.
Mhm.
And I forget who I was talking to, another fighter, but John made it known that he's going to want to have, I don't think he said it, but he wants to be a big heavyweight.
Right.
He doesn't want to be 235, 240, as people would have assumed he would want to be at heavyweight and still have his speed, but be 20 and 30 pounds lighter. He wants to be as big or bigger than other guys. And a couple of guys pointed out to me, why is that? He's bringing the speed up anyway, being in that lower weight class, and he was known for being quick. Why does he want to put on 40 or 50 pounds of muscle and not have that quickness? And not only that, but apparently your body as a pro fighter, you can get used to a certain size and you can maybe change a little bit from that without your body feeling weird. But to go 40 or 50 pounds heavier than that, you would think is going to be kind of a weird feeling. So
So here's the deal. I think he's making his way out over to boxing.
okay.
I really think that's what his plan is.
Okay, so you think we might not even see him at MMA at heavyweight? I mean, you know what's interesting?
I don't think we will. I think it's all play and a ploy to
make
get
big
on
money
over into
in
boxing
boxing.
and make the big money.
But and the weird thing is though, he was
Or even WWE if Vince
Right.
is willing to take him on.
right because boxing. I don't think he wants to box any type of really good heavyweight boxer because he was tricky with his hands, but he was more of an elbow, spinning back fist, spinning back elbow guy. He not only did he not
Look
have
at his
one punch
coach, though.
knockout power, but he
Look at the coach change.
yeah, that's right. He's over at he's over at the other Jacksons now, but then I think he's also trained with a few other good guys.
Boxing coaches.
Yeah.
legends.
Yeah, it's so hard to say. It's so hard to say what's going to happen. Okay, Ray says I'm good, but we're not seeing him here. All right. Did you get the link that our producer sent to this phone number? Question mark. Because if you did, all you got to do is text that Zoom link, and you'll
Not text it.
be
Click
here.
it.
Click. Sorry. You can let me.
All of a sudden he texts him.
Yeah, I
Why
know.
is this not happening?
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Make sure you get that part right.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah, no, we're gonna make this happen, and it'll be good to talk to him. So, yeah. So when he says he's good, it makes me think that he thinks somehow he's in, but
Yeah,
he isn't.
no. We'll find out real fast when he's coming in.
That happens.
Make
in
sure
life
make sure
sometimes.
if you're on Fight TV to head on over to the Hannibal TV on YouTube and also follow us on Facebook. It is at MMA Power Hour. We're also on Instagram, and if you want to search MMA Power Hour on YouTube, you'll find my own personal channel. I have this up there as well. It's kind of meant to just be an archive for anybody to come back and check out and us for footage later. But check it out. I do keep it open in public for now. But I'm going to close that down because we are over on the Hannibal TV on YouTube. And a lot of people over there.
Right.
How many followers does he have now? Or subscribers?
Over 300,000. But real quick,
Yeah.
Mike, could you send it to him again? Because he said he didn't get. Let me see. It is. Let me compare. He did or he didn't? Okay, let me see. Okay, okay, let me see. No, that's not it. That's
the
not
one
it.
you gave him,
Instead of
that's why.
210-220. Sorry about that.
That's all right. It happens.
He had one number off. He's going to send it to you right now.
All righty.
Okay.
There you go, guys.
All right. And I think my phone has like 10% battery left.
That's not so bad. That's not so bad.
Yeah, we made it by, okay, so let me see. Let's, okay. All right. That will be what the answer is here.
I mean, I feel like right now in moments like this, I need to have a joint in my hand.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's why I asked about some chronic earlier when I first came into the studio. Well, I just said I smelled good. I thought there was people were smoking some chronic here. All right.
I don't think they do.
No. It's just chronically peaceful and nice and
I'm not saying anybody here like Mike has a problem with it. Just
No.
smoking inside, it doesn't smell like that.
No. Are there some chronic edibles? Can you get edible and chronic or?
Of course.
Of course you can, right?
That's the whole point in edibles. I mean, how old are you, man?
I'm old. You don't want to say
clearly.
It's true. I'm so old that I don't know the different strains that
chronic
cannabis
and edibles.
Of course they do. But how come? But then would chronic be more of a sativa or more of an indica? There we go. Ray, can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Really appreciate you, brother. Sorry for having one number off. My bad. But we're live. Let me give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Okay.
Sorry, let me move because there's light kind of glares.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate you. And while you're doing that, we'll give you an introduction.
Okay, there you go.
Fabulous. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you a proper introduction, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to have this next guest back on the show. He is a legendary kickboxing champion, as well as a former MMA fighter, as well as the president of the PFL, one of the most popular, probably the most popular and well-liked man who is in front of the camera on any organization, Mr. Sugar Ray Sefo. Welcome back to the show, Ray.
Thank you. That was an awesome introduction. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For having me.
My pleasure. I mean, and it's tough to be a guy who is in front and leading an organization, but I think maybe just the fact that you were a fighter. I mean, we have, Dana White, a lot of people like him, but he was never a fighter. We have Scott Coker out there, people like him, but he was never a fighter. Chatri, I think, was really never a fighter. You're the only guy that really is like the face of an organization that went out there and fought. But I think it was more than that. You've always been a very friendly and approachable, respectful guy. And I know you're a Generation X guy like me. And I think Scott Coker is too. I think Dana is as well. But I think you've always just had that great, friendly quality about you. How does a guy who was such a killer in the ring have this easygoing, friendly quality about him? Was that always part of your nature or what?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is. I never looked at competition as being personal. Now, there are a couple of matches where guys will go out and, try and bring that other side of me. And for me, it's like, okay, well, we'll go there when that happens. And for me, fighting was, it was competition. And I never allowed myself to get too personal or to take it too personal. And, I've always been a people's person. I like meeting people. I love traveling. And it's just been a fun journey.
Absolutely. I remember some of your great matches in K1, man. Those were the days back in the 90s. And, before I forget, here's a question I had for you. When you were fighting in the beginning of your career, you were fighting more guys that were born maybe in the mid-late 60s and in the 70s. In the later part of your career, you were fighting with guys more born in the 70s and maybe the early mid-80s,
yeah.
right? And
Yes.
and now, you still train as well as training, and then you also have the PFL, and you're dealing with a lot of guys born now in the 90s and even some in the early 2000s. Is there any difference in attitude at all between these young millennials and Generation Z as opposed to like the older Generation X guys like us that you fought and that you were?
Yeah, I think I mean, the guys that I work with, they're very, really down to earth, and it's all about the job at hand, and they know that. But at the same time, when you look at this time, with social media being such a major part of this era now, I see that there's a lot more. There's a few people that try and and be like Muhammad Ali, if you will. But there's only one Muhammad Ali, and there's only one Mike Tyson, and so on and so on. And in our era, it was all about business. We would, for example, I would see people like Peter Edge and Mr. Hoosh, Jerome Labana, Andy Hoog, Shigefilu, and I would greet them with a hug, and knowing that we're going to be matched, fighting each other.
Right.
But it was all about respect. And then when the competition happened, it happened, and once that was said and done, then we were out, having dinner together, or a juice, and or whatever, So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different today than what it was back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, because I think, us Generation X guys remember a time, knowing from our parents, and even though I was never a professional fighter, just having that respect. And I think that, that I've trained jiu-jitsu for years and other striking arts, and even though I've never been a professional fighter, just the competition and the hard work and training, you get respect for your partners. And I think that you're right, there was no social media. I've often wondered what it would have been like if like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff had become popular like 20 years earlier, when you and me were like in our 20s or or late teens. Because I hope to think that the way we were always taught, don't say anything about anyone you wouldn't say to their face. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely right. And yeah, it's funny you say that, because I met somebody in the gym. I think he was from Holland, and he kind of mentioned that. He goes, "Man, just imagine if Instagram and Twitter and all this and all these social media platforms. Imagine if that was out back 20, 25 years ago."
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm
like, yeah, it's but that's just the way life is. You just take it as it evolves, if you will.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a funny thing. I sometimes watch videos from some guys talking about making money with investments or doing gigs or side hustles. And one guy likes to give advice, and some other guy really disliked him, so started putting up videos just ripping on him and criticizing him, right? And like, and he would use pictures the other guy would put up and put like him holding a garbage can or crap or something, and so then the first guy got so mad that and these are guys who are non-fighters, they don't even look like athletes, and the one guy said, I'll travel to your area of the country and we can have a boxing match to hash this out. and the other guy, and then the other guy said, yeah, but you want it to be on YouTube, where then you can get more hits on your channel to make money. I'm not going to do that. We can do it behind. And I'm thinking, this is just crazy. These are guys who are not professional fighters in their 30s and maybe late 30s that are going to challenge each other to a boxing match because one guy's ripping on the other guy. And it is funny. I mean, because like you said, our day, you don't say something about someone or that you wouldn't say to their face. And I think today it's the exact opposite. Today, guys say, I can say anything to anyone's face, not anyone's face. I can say anything to anyone on the internet that I want, even though I'll never say it to his face. And I think that, that's one of the biggest difference, because I think with the millennial and Z, they're like, that's okay. You could say whatever you want about anyone, even though you wouldn't say it to your face, and that's fine. And I think
Right.
it's very different from our generation. But I think, probably a lot of the fighters have a little bit more respect. But speaking about fighters, I remember after watching you fight years back that your brother started to fight. How's he doing? What did he ever do something with his journey as far as coaching or training?
Yes, Ronnie. I mean, he did an amazing. He had an amazing career as well. He won 2 world titles throughout his career, and also fought in K1. Had a couple of fights in K1, and also fought in a couple of Ichigeki shows in Bulgaria and I believe Czech Republic.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, obviously he's retired as well, and he's a family man. He has 2 kids, 2 beautiful kids, a boy and a girl, and they live in Australia. And funny enough, I was just talking to him last night. But yeah, no, he had a great career as well, which he you know Ronnie was never. Well, I mean, I never really thought about as a youngster. I enjoyed training martial arts, but I never thought about being a professional fighter.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a cop.
Ah,
Um, and so, but then as I was, obviously on that journey, Ronnie also loved the training, but because I ended up becoming a fighter, he also fell into it, and so yeah, I was really impressed with what he was able to do throughout his career as well.
right. And you were the older brother, or was he?
We have well, there's 7 boys and 2 girls in our family,
Oh
and we
wow.
were the 2 youngest. Yeah.
All right. And so you were older than him, or was he older than you?
Yes, he's younger than me. Yes.
Okay. And so did he ask for your help in those early days, or was it just natural that you would train together, or did you not train together much?
Yeah, we trained together right throughout, to the point when we both became professionals. Most times I would corner him, and and then he would corner me. And then towards I want to say the last probably 80 years of our career, or 70 years of our careers, when he fought, I would be the head coach, and when I fought, he would be the head coach.
That's cool. That must have been some
Yeah.
good times. Was it harder to be in the corner watching your brother fight than watching your training partners fight, or was it exactly the same feeling?
It was exactly the same because as you know, as martial artists, when you train with these guys day in day out, they become your family. Your brothers, and so although you know Ronnie was a little bit different because he was my blood brother. Um, it, there was maybe a little difference, but most times it wasn't because every time they fought, whether it was Ronnie or my teammates who happened to be good friends, um, I think I was more nervous for them than I was for my own fight.
Right, right.
And then if Ronnie and I ended up on the same card, 100% I was more nervous than, for his fight than it was for mine.
Absolutely. I know that with a few brothers that fought, one brother usually worked a lot harder. And I even talked to a UFC fighter who said his brother's kind of trying to get into the UFC to fight, or PFL, or Bellator, but his brother
Right.
really isn't willing to work that hard because he feels if my older brother is this good, I'm probably this good as well, and I don't have to really work that hard. Did you find any problem with that with Ronnie, or was he a hard worker from the get go?
No, he was a hard worker when he was in camp. The only difference between Ronnie and I, he likes to party from time to time with his friends after a fight. Where for me, you know, I was always against drinking, and I never touch alcohol, drugs, or cigarettes or anything like that. So, um, I was more on the healthier side, if you will. Where Ronnie, he trained hard and he put in the work. But then when the fight was over, he and some friends of ours would go out and party for a couple of weeks straight.
Right.
And when we were younger, I could understand because of so much work that's put in. Because we put in 10 to 12 weeks of training camp, and so once that's been said and done, and then it was, and especially if they we won, they would go out and have a great time. Unfortunately, those kind of things eventually catches up with them. But
Yep.
it is what it was at the time.
Without a doubt. We've got about 8 more minutes with you, and I really want to spend the time focusing on the PFL for you. I appreciate you talking to me about these other things, and I was always interested to see what's going on with your brother and like that, so I appreciate it. So PFL is doing so many amazing things. I remember when the PFL was World Series of Fighting, and I remember Justin Gaethje as the champion, and I know you always appreciated him. He's got a fight. I don't know if it's been inked yet, but it's got to be Gaethje against Charles Oliveira. I think you've remained a fan of Justin Gaethje, haven't you? And do you have confidence he'll be the next champion against DuBronx Oliveira?
Yeah, 100%. Justin is still a friend. Every time he fights, I send him a text and wish him luck. And when he wins, I send him a text and say, congratulations. So, and his manager is also a good friend of mine. But yeah, no, Justin is definitely, I mean, the way he fights, he's definitely like one of my favorite fighters out there. It's because he always brings it. Justin is never involved in a boring fight. You know what I mean? And there's no doubt in my mind that at some point he's going to be the UFC champion.
Absolutely. And now in the PFL, you guys got some great champions. Right. I know that that Bubba Jenkins pulled off that great win, beating a man who had beat him before. That was so awesome. We had Bubba on the show, and we've had several of your guys. We love coordinating with Tawny, and we're going to get back with her to get some more of your people. But we had Bubba on, and several other PFL fighters. And let us know who your champions are now, so that people can make sure that they're looking out for them.
The featherweight is Marvalit, one of Habib's teammates and good friends.
Right. I think Kospalai or something.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. And then our lightweight champion is a new kid that, I brought him in as an alternate and ends up winning the whole season.
Nice.
Raush Manfield.
Mm-hmm.
Our welterweight champion, who's two-time world champion now, is Ray Cooper.
Right. So I did have Ray on the show too. We had a great chat with Ray. Tawny said she was surprised Ray was chatting so much with me because he usually doesn't, but we had a great chat. That was amazing. He's amazing. And who else?
Yeah, no, he's another guy. Like Ray Cooper it reminds me of Justin Gaethje, to be quite honest. You never see Ray in a boring fight.
Right.
I love his mentality. I love his attitude. It's a do or die attitude. You come in, you work hard. You come in there when the bell rings, he's coming to finish you, or he's going to get finished.
Absolutely.
And so it's just a dream for us to have Ray as a champion. And then our light heavyweight champion is Antonio Carlos Jr.
Yes.
I picked him up. I said to his manager, he has to fight at 205. I think he's a big guy to be making 185 when he was competing at the UFC, and they all agree. They think that that's probably the ideal weight class for him, because he fluctuates from I believe middleweight to heavyweight.
Right.
And look what he did. He came out there and now he's the champion.
He looks awesome.
And another. And our heavyweight champion is Bruno Cabalosa. When his team came to me, they wanted him at light heavyweight. After watching some footage of him, I'm like, what does he walk around at? And there's he walks around about 240, 238. I mean, so why do you want him at light heavyweight? He's explosive as a heavyweight. So why don't you just keep him as a heavyweight rather than having to cut 35 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever it is that he would cut to make 205. And they're like, well, this. I said, well, I don't have anything else. Although I did have another spot, but I thought with that kind of experience, explosiveness and skills, I just knew he would do well in the heavyweight division. And so, and then afterwards, when he won, they were like, "Well, thank you, we appreciate that." But yeah, no, Bruno is our heavyweight champion, and again, all these I'm so proud of all these guys because you go through the season, you fight, you win. Just as you know, the PFL is that you win, you move on, you lose, you go home, and so and when it comes down to the format in itself, these guys are in charge of their destiny because continue to win, they'll get to that championship. And I don't decide who fights for the title; they do.
Right, and that's something I really like, and I think a lot of people like as well, is that just like professional football, baseball, basketball, and hockey, it's decided by winning. I'm not going to rip
Right.
on other fighting organizations, but a lot of times there's guys that are deserving it, and someone will make a decision, this guy's just not popular enough, or this girl is just not popular enough. Let's bring someone who's ranked lower that's more popular and give them the fight. Or sometimes even let's bring someone who's unranked, who's more popular, and give them the title fight. And in the PFL, that doesn't happen. You win and you earn your shot. And $1 million is a great
Right.
payoff. You have I think six weight classes, I think, or
Six
seven.
weight classes,
Yeah,
correct.
and so on one night you're giving away six $1 million paydays, and that's so amazing because so many fighters can go their whole career without even getting a $500,000 payday or $250,000 payday, and
Right.
to be able to have the chance to get $1 million payday when you're still young and you're fresh and you're and in your prime is amazing, and I really like that. I know that that the rest of the payoffs, if you don't win, are not that big, but I think the person that loses the championship fight still gets like $250,000 or something, don't they, or some good money?
Yeah. If they lose, the guy that comes second overall goes home with 100 grand.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's still a really good
Yeah.
payday. I like that because
Right.
I was hoping you weren't going to say they go home with 10 grand or 20 grand because that would suck, But
Right.
no, it's a great league. Well, in the last minute we have you, Ray, let us know when the new season starts and let us know what day and what time and what channel we can watch the Professional Fighters League.
Yes. So the new season starts in April. We haven't finalized the exact date, but we're looking at probably the first or the second week of April. It will be live on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Prior to that, we have the Challenger Series, which starts February 18th, and so that's going to kick off the first parts of the show. And I think we've just added another 10 shows to the whole thing. So in 2022, we're looking at doing 21 shows.
Awesome. I look forward to it. We better jump before we go off the air here, but Sugar Ray Sefo, huge respect for you. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. You're doing an amazing job. Keep it up, and we'll all be watching the PFL coming up this season with great interest and excitement.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And that was Sugar Ray Sefo, Dr. Adam Rorta. We're butt up against in it, so say something and then tap out.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys head on over to the Hannibal TV on YouTube. Hit us up on social media. It's at MMA Power Hour. We will be over there. We've had a great time here at Fight TV. You guys have an amazing Happy New Year. Colin,
Thank you. And I think I have a minute left because last time I did my punching and then I got cut off before the peace sign. So I think I'm going to be mindful here that I've got maybe a minute or so. Right, Mike? Okay. Thank you guys. Excuse me. Everyone. Dr. Adam Rorta, everyone at the MMA Power Hour, everyone at Third Wheel Studio. Mike, you're the best. And appreciate you guys. Spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy. Be that girl. Come back to you a million times in order of appearance. Thank you so much to Erik the Viking Paulson. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much to Tony Gravley. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much to Sugar Ray Sefo. Appreciate you, brother. Take good care of your family. Be gentle and kind to yourself. Take good care of your pets. Walk your dog whenever he or she needs it. Keep your cat box litter box clean. Make sure they have a warm place and cold water and fresh food. Big love to you all. For the MMA Power Hour, this is Colin Crandall. And for tonight, I am tapping out.